Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the most fundamental, and I mean truly essential security tools in all of AWS, security groups. Let's dive right in.
All right, so let's get right to it. The best way to think about a security group, picture a bouncer, a virtual bouncer standing right at the door of your server. So think about it. You've just launched a new virtual server, an EC2 instance. It's out there, in the cloud. But who's guarding the door, right? How do you control who can even try to connect to it? And that's where the AWS security group comes in. It is quite literally that personal bouncer for your server. Its entire job is to control all the traffic coming in and all the traffic going out. And this is a super important point. Security groups operate at the instance level. That means this bouncer is tied directly to the server itself. So you could have two servers sitting in the exact same network, side by side, but they can have totally different bouncers with completely different rules. It's that granular.
Okay, so how does this bouncer know who to let in? It's not just making it up, of course. It has a very specific rule book.
Now, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this: security groups are stateful. And what does stateful mean? It's actually pretty simple. It just means our bouncer has a fantastic memory.
So what does that memory get you? Well, if you're allowed in through the door, our stateful bouncer remembers you. So when your server sends a response back out, the bouncer just waves it through. It automatically allows the return traffic. This is a huge deal compared to stateless firewalls, which are like a guard with amnesia. They check your ID every single packet, in and out, forcing you to create separate rules for both directions.
So, what's the bouncer's starting attitude? Well, by default, it's incredibly strict about who gets in. The guest list is empty, so all incoming traffic is denied. But it's super chill about people leaving. All outgoing traffic is allowed by default.
And when you're making the rules for this guest list, it's important to know you can only create allow rules. There's no such thing as a deny rule. You're basically just adding names to the guest list. And to do that, you just need to tell the bouncer three things: what kind of traffic it is, which port or door it can use, and where it's coming from.
Okay, enough theory. Let's see what this looks like in the real world. Let's put this bouncer to work.
Here's a super common example, a web server. You're going to tell your bouncer, hey, for normal web traffic on ports 80 and 443, let everyone in. That's what that 0.0.0.0 means, the whole internet. But then you'd add another rule. For administrative access on port 22, only let in traffic from this specific IP address. See? Open for business, but locked down for admins.
And this is where things get really, really powerful, especially when you have multiple tiers, like a web server that needs to talk to a database server.
So check this out. The old, painful way to do this was to give your database bouncer a list of every single web server's IP address, and if you added a new web server, you had to go update the list. What a total headache. But now, you can do something way smarter. You just tell the database's bouncer, hey, only allow traffic from instances that are part of the web server security group. That's it. Now, when you add or remove web servers, the rule updates automatically. It's an absolute game changer.
And this is why you see security groups used for absolutely everything. Securing web servers, locking down databases, controlling traffic from load balancers, connecting different application parts, you name it. They're everywhere.
All right, you've got the what and the how. Now for the really important part, the shoulds and should nots.
Okay, the number one rule, the golden rule, is the principle of least privilege. In simple terms, keep your bouncer's guest list as short as possible. Only open the ports you need for the sources you need, nothing more.
And that brings us to this big one. When you see this address, 0.0.0.0/0, that means the entire internet. And look, it's necessary for things like web servers, but putting it on the wrong port, that's not just leaving the door unlocked, it's taking the door off its hinges.
So, let's be crystal clear. Here are two things you should never do in a production environment. Open up administrative ports like SSH or RDP to the entire internet. Seriously, this is just sending an open invitation for attackers to come knocking.
And finally, just a couple of pro tips. First, do yourself a favor and use good, descriptive names for your security groups. It'll save you so much confusion later. And second, for real top-tier security, you'll want to use them with another layer of defense called network ACLs. Think of it as having a bouncer at the door and another guard at the end of the block.
All right, let's bring it all home. What's the big takeaway here?
It really boils down to this. Security groups are your stateful, instance-level doormen. They give you precise, direct control over who can get to your cloud resources. They are your first and arguably most important line of defense.
So yeah, your cloud might be secure, but you have to ask yourself, are your doormen following the right rules? Because getting this right isn't just the best practice, it's everything. It all starts with the bouncer at the door.